We just thank you that we are able to come here and hear your word and grow and learn from you. We pray that I would just be a funnel and that you would speak through me to everyone and that it would be received and we would leave here better. In Jesus' name, amen. So I'm going to start out reading out of the book of Judges, Old Testament, because that's where the good stuff's at. So Judges chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. Bam, look at that. I did that. No, I didn't. So it says this. After the death, okay, so I'll give you a little, I'm not good at backstories like PT, but I'll give you a little bit. So Moses, he led the people out, and then he died, and then Joshua took over, and he was like, we're going to kick some butt, and then he died, and now here we are. Backstory. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites asked the Lord, which tribe should go first to attack the Canaanites? The Lord answered, Judah, for I have given them victory over the land. The men of Judah said to their relatives from the tribe of Simeon, join with us to fight against the Canaanites living in the territory allotted to us. Then we will help you conquer your territory. So the men of Simeon went with Judah. When the men of Judah attacked, the Lord gave them victory over the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and they killed 10,000 enemy warriors at the town of Bezek. While at Bezek, they encountered a king, Adoni-Bezek, and they fought against him, and the Canaanites and Perizzites were defeated. Adoni-Bezek escaped, but the Israelites soon captured him and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Dang. No more video games. Kind of hard to do that. And it's 2017, so I was like, if this happened today, we would have to change the Constitution because he would be offended anytime someone was like, high five, because he ain't, there's no more five. There's no more five, so he'd be offended and we'd have to change that to just slap hands because we can't offend people anymore. But anyways, I'm going to trademark this. I thought of this. They have the easy button, and you heard the word translation. I'm going to get one, and it's going to say, translate, Sean, in a real hood voice, translate, Sean. That's you hit the button, and I will translate what's actually going on. And I'm going to use it all over the place, like Instagram. People post pictures in the gym. Translate, Sean. What he's really saying is I'm insecure, and I need your likes so that I feel secure about myself. And I'll go around, y'all ain't safe either. You be posting scriptures about translate, Sean. Really, my life's a mess, but I want to portray to y'all that I've got it all together. So I'm going to post some scriptures and stuff. That's going to be my button. So I'm going to hit my button right now, translate, Sean. And what this passage is saying in Sean's translation is, okay. So Judah, I looked up some stuff. I learned myself for this. And Judah means praise. All the tribes, in the Bible, I'm learning this. Everything has a meaning. Names have meanings, numbers have meanings, animals and things have symbolic meanings. Judah means praise. That's what that means. And so, Israelites, God's people. Canaan, God's promise. They said, so, okay, God's people, how do we get what you promised to us? And he said, send Judah first. So, in other words, he's saying, you need to praise. They haven't won yet. But he's saying, send Judah first. So I think a lot of times it's really easy when you win to celebrate, but to say that you have faith in God is to be able to send Judah first and to praise before you even have the victory. It's kind of tough to do. But Simeon, and then Judah said, okay, we'll do that. We know what we got to do. But Simeon, that means obedient and listening. So they said, okay, we'll praise, but that's not it. Y'all know. You can't just, woo, and things happen. You praise Jesus, but then you have to be obedient and listen to what they needed to do. They still had to go into the land and take it. They didn't just get to yell and scream and win the victory. But, okay, that's cool. Story time. So, he wasn't supposed to be here, but that's cool because I still love him and it's all good. But, probably I was in 7th grade, something like that, junior high. I went to Wayland Days with my brother and some of his friends, and we were all chilling, hanging out. It was a normal day. It's cool, got my elephant ear, we chilling, eating snacks. And then it's time to leave, and I was like, okay, we parked over here. So I'm walking, and I turn around, and He's gone, and I don't know, he's my older brother. Can't really say big brother because, I mean, he's not like Dwayne Johnson or nothing like that. I mean, he's not the biggest. So I was looking for him. I was like, oh man, I can't find him. But then I see him, and he's running over this dude, and the dude is like 7'12", and he's just a big guy. But, you know, because he's so small, he like tackled him, and like, you can't try to squeeze a broom handle. Like, you can't do it. You can't do it because it's so small. So he slipped up in there and got up on this dude and was like, And I was like, oh, dang, that's my brother. Yeah, get him. And then that dude's friends came over and were like, kicked him off. And I was like, okay. I stepped over there, and have you seen the movies when people get surrounded and like there's like 10 dudes and you're like, why don't they all just like, but I was just like, punch your soul out. And that's what I was doing and stuff. That's not really what happened. What really happened was his friends went over there and they all whooped up on that guy's friends, and I was just standing there like. And I say that to say because those friends used to pick on me all the time. They come over to the house and like I'd be just minding my business and they start messing with me to the point of breaking point. And then, I don't know, some of you people know old Sean, and he used to snap and it was bad and I didn't care what happened to anyone. I just snapped and they would get me to that point, but they were like football players. I said, I'm little, like 7th grader, and they're 12th, 11th grade football running backs and stuff, so it's not very difficult for them to beat me up or hold me down and wrestle. They all wrestled. My brother and all his friends wrestled me all the time, and it got really annoying. And so I built up this thing called I Don't Care, and I just started biting and pinching, and I would do anything I had to do to get these dudes off me, and this I don't care attitude came, and that's what I would do. I say that to say that they built up an animal that they didn't know what they was doing, and secretly I became really confident in my abilities because I was getting these dudes off of me. And so when I was, now fast forward, in high school, and I went to Whaling Days, another little backstory here, so it's all gonna kind of fit in, maybe. This is for comic relief for you guys. So I had a girlfriend, she cheated, she's stupid, you know, her laws, you know what I'm saying? And she cheated, and I was like, okay, whatever. So I went and got on AIM, because y'all remember AIM, y'all know about that? Woo, we all know about that. That's that AOL Instant Messenger, and I was on there, and it was like, you know, the door sound when the door opens, your friends get online. You remember that? Yeah. I was on there and I was like, hey, what up? Yeah, you know, what up, Rodney? I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to people on AIM, and that girl that cheated on me, his friend got online. I had no problems with her. She didn't cheat on me. We cool. So I was like, oh, what's up? Yeah, you chilling? Yeah, I'm chilling. And then she was like, well, what you need to do is you should forgive her. And I was like, well, see, I'm nice to everybody. Anyone that knows me knows I'm nice. But she is the only female canine that like cheated on me. I didn't say female canine. I said a 5-letter word that's shorter for that. But, you know, don't judge me. I'm saved, sanctified, pushing Satan to the side. Don't judge me. I'm changed. But I said it at the time, and then my ex got on, was like, oh, so I'm one of those now. And I was like, what did you block? Get out of here. She was blocked. Now, that was the backstory. Fast forward, I'm at Whaling Days, and I'm walking around chilling, you know, hanging out, and then I break off from some of my buddies, and dude waited like a little punk till I was by myself, and he was like, hey, I heard you called my girl a name that rhymes with snitch. And I was like, yeah? So what you gonna do about it? And because I'm confident, remember what happened with my brother and all his friends, so I'm like, I ain't scared of you. What you gonna do? Are we gonna talk or we gonna do something? And then he was like, you know what, man? I don't really want no problems with you, so I just saying that's disrespectful. You shouldn't be doing that. And he left. And I was like, that's right. Back up. And then I turned around, and what really had happened was my like 4 Samoan friends were behind me, mean mugging this dude, and he didn't want those problems, so he left. But I thought for a second that like, you know, I just scared him away. But anyways, so I say all of that to go back to the Bible so we can get holy again. And 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 8 through 11 talks about this dude, Goliath. So, it says, Goliath stood and shouted a taunt across to the Israelites. Why are you all coming to fight, he called. I am the Philistine champion, but you are only servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. If he kills me, then we will be your slaves. If I kill him, you will be our slaves. I defy the armies of Israel today. Send me a man who will fight me. When Saul and the Israelites heard this, they were terrified and deeply shaken. So I read that and I was like, terrified and deeply shaken. So the book of Joshua is nothing besides that little blip in Ai where some dude didn't do what God told him to do, so they lost, but it's just a book of them kicking everybody's booty in Joshua. That's all Israel did was battle, won, battle, won. So clearly they're not new to combat. Like at this point in time, it's not like this was foreign to them, but they come up and this dude's like, fight me, and they're like, oh my goodness. They're scared, and I was like, why? It says, in verse 16, 40 days every morning and evening, this Philistine champion strutted around and in their face. 40 days, for real? I don't get it. But I say all this to say, all of you guys are here, and you wouldn't be here right now at this moment in time if you didn't already win battles. We've all gone through stuff in our lives. We're going to keep going through stuff in our lives. Whether you might see it insignificant or significant, we've gotten through stuff. We won battles. We've overcome angry people, whatever it may be. But sometimes, even though we've won a lot, we get to a place where there's something that we face that our mindset changes, and we're just like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. I don't know how I'm gonna win. It might be different for all of you, but I think part of it is because the battles that we win a lot of times is stuff we can do on our own. Like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the gym every day this week. Boom, I did it. You can do that on your own. And it's like, you know what, I'm gonna lose some weight. You did that, cool. Like, I'm not gonna get angry at every single person. Takes a little bit more energy, but you can do that for a certain amount of time. And there's things that we do that we win, but it's in our own strength. And I think, like, but then there's something that might come, like, you know what, yeah, it's late at night and I've been single for a while and this website is here, so why don't I just, tickle the keys and get up on here because I can get satisfied that way. I can hang out with her, ain't nothing gonna happen. We'll be cool, we'll just hang out, Netflix and hang out, and it doesn't really work out that way. Or, maybe you go out, you're like, I stopped drinking, I could just go chill with the homies and I don't gotta drink nothing. But then peer pressure happens, and maybe you're a prideful person and you're like, I'm the supervisor. Like, these people need to do what I say. Like, why does everyone seem like they don't like me? But I'm just so awesome, but everyone just seems to not like me. Probably because you're a prideful person and no one likes you. But anyways, gossip, you're at work. No one likes Susie Q, so why don't I just go ahead and put my 2 cents in about her too? And while I'm at it, since I already said it, I might as well talk about her mama and tell them what I think about her too, because she's the reason why she like that. Gossip, worry, all these things for different people, these are your Goliaths, the things that you can't you want to stop, but for whatever reason it pops back up and you do it again. So back to the story. Now it's been a little bit, 40 days and 40 nights that this dude's been strutting his stuff. And so David, minding his own business with his sheep, chilling. And his dad's like, hey, why don't you go down to the battlefront and take these dudes some Lunchables. And so he goes ahead and we pick up in 17:20 through 21. It says, so David left the sheep with another shepherd and set out early the next morning with gifts as Jesse had directed him. He arrived at the camp just as the Israelite army was leaving the battlefield with shouts and cries. So I'm going to stop right there. Because we talked about praise, didn't we? We're really good at that part. The shouts and the cries, the battle cries. Have you guys ever seen like the dude that it's a lot of times in high school, maybe in college, there's this dude that's warming up for like basketball, and he just looks like he is about to annihilate this game. Like he's warming up and he's like, jelly, and finger rolling, doing 1080 dunks and hitting every single shot, and he's just all about it, and he's hyping everyone up like, let's go! Let's go! Woo! woo, let's go. And then the game starts, and it looks like he's playing with the medicine ball because nothing is even making it to the hoop, and he ain't dunking on nobody. He ain't doing none of the stuff he was doing in warm-ups. I think that's how we look a lot of times because we're really good at the whole screaming and shouting and battle cries part like they were, but we're really good at sending Judah first. But then during the battle, there's this whole tribe of Simeon part, the obedience and listening part that we seem to forget about. So it says this in 24 and 25. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. They just left, screaming with battle cries. They just, let's go! Oh, there he go. No, man. Like, as soon as they saw him, as soon as the Israelite army saw, they began to run away in fright. Have you seen the giant? The men asked. He comes out each day to defy Israel. The king has offered a huge reward to anyone who kills him. He will give that man one of his daughters for a wife, and the man's entire family will be exempt from taxes. So David, like me, heard, what? Wife? Word? And I don't have to pay taxes, so my net won't be so small compared to my gross? Like, what? Sign me up. Who is this Goliath? He's going down. So David stepped up but he had his little hater brother, was like, Dave, what you doing here? Get out of here, man. David was like, shut up. And so Saul saw David, and this is what it says. So David persisted in 34 through 37. David persisted. I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. He said, when a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with the club and rescue it from the lamb's mouth. If an animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. So Saul said, okay. So, translate, Sean. So what happened was there was something like shepherd, sheep, shepherd, sheep. Something came after God's sheep. And David said, nah, that's not how it's supposed to be. Like, I've been practicing. These dudes have been wrestling me in my house and messing with me and sitting on me, and I had to resort to biting and doing things in areas I didn't want to, but I got out of it because I did. God was with me. But David is saying, like, I've wrestled beasts. Like, I've done this. This is nothing new. He's just another beast trying to come against something that is God's. I'm the pretty son. Ain't nobody taking my thumbs. It said David was handsome, so he's like, ain't no one taking my thumbs and my big toes. I just got manicures and pedicures up in here, so ain't nobody. So, what I say that, and in the beginning I started in Judges, and it said that they cut that dude's toes, big toes and thumbs off. And I found out why they did that, and it was because if you cut off a warrior's thumbs, they can no longer successfully hold their sword to be offensive. And if you cut off their big toes, they can't take a defensive posture that is sturdy, or they can't flee fast enough to get away from you. And so the Bible says the enemy knows us. He's not ignorant, he's not stupid, but he knows each and every one of us. Like, I named off some stuff, and this is a really awesome thing because I think it's people in general. I was going to say Christians, but people in general, we like to, if someone names a list of things that people do bad, I was like, you might struggle with sleeping around or gossip or pride or this. And if you aren't anywhere really on that list, you kind of just exclude yourself. But there is something that is a Goliath to you. And it's your job to figure that out, not my job to say it up here. And if the pastor doesn't say it or whoever's speaking doesn't say it, I'm excluded. No, there's stuff in our lives that the enemy knows you, and he's going to come at you with the stuff that affects you. Not the same way it affects me, because there's different things. But it says he knows you. He's going to come after us all differently. Israel knew how to fight. We know how to fight. Like, we know what we should do, but for whatever reason, something took their eyes off. But David comes up, and something's a little bit different here. And I don't have the verse in here, but it says that Saul tried to give David his armor. And a lot of times we look at people, we look up to people. There's people in your lives that you guys might look up to, and you try to fight battles the way that they did. But it's, like I said, he knows us all differently. We have to figure out how to fight. He was like, here, David, wear my armor. And David was like, this don't feel right. I don't want it. I don't want your armor. Like, I don't need it, for one, because God's got my back. And it just didn't feel right. So there's an interesting, you might feel like you're odd or you're weird or like you don't know how to fight. But sometimes in that, it's a good thing. I don't have this in here either, but in Judges chapter 3, Ehud, I believe the dude's name is, from the tribe of Benjamin. Another tribe means son of my right hand. Ehud was left-handed from a tribe of people that says son of my right hand. It doesn't make sense. So he could have been like, woe is me, everyone else in the tribe fights this way and they succeed this way. How can I do that because I'm left-handed? Boo-hoo. But there came a time when something, again, was coming after what was God's, coming against Israel, and Ehud, being left-handed, was able to reach for his sword on his right hand, pull it out, and attack with one swoop. If he was right-handed, he would have had to pull it out and then stab, and it would have been two motions, and the guards were right next to him, and they would have been able to stop him. So I think sometimes we might look at our weirdness or the things that are different about us as weaknesses, but God's saying, I gave it to you, for one. I made you. I know everything about every single one of you, and I made you all differently, so I can use what you have to beat a giant that this guy won't be able to defeat. And if he tries to defeat it your way, he's going to lose. And so we're not made to fight battles ways we weren't intended to fight. David said, Saul, I don't need that. Give me these 5 rocks right here. I got you. And get your wife and the tax thing, get the paperwork ready, because I'm signing after this is done, and we about to do this whole thing. So why was David successful? Well, one, because he knew who was fighting for him. It says, I don't have that in here either, Sean, you're terrible. But when he talked about who he was fighting, when he went up to Goliath, and Goliath was like, am I a dog? You sent this tiny little twig? That was my brother. He was a tiny little twig. You sent this twig out here to fight me? Like, what is this? Well, first of all, I thought about this. Goliath was devious because there's a whole army on both sides. And he said, why are you all coming at me at once? Send one man. Why didn't they all just attack him? That was my thought. But anyways, he comes out, and David says, no, I got you, because I remember, like, my God has protected me from lions and bears, and he will protect me against you. And he's like, you haven't come against me. You don't come, like, the stuff in our life, this is not a flesh and blood thing. Like, they're not coming, like, he's like, you're not fighting against me. You're fighting against the Lord of heaven's armies. And he's like, so you aren't defying me. We look at the stuff like in our life like this is our life, and God's coming against us, or the enemy's coming against us. And that's, I think, where we lose this thing. We're fighting in our own strength, in our own battles, like our own way, thinking that this is against me. And that's where we lose, because if it's against you, you're going to lose dang near every time. But if you realize where your source is and where your power is coming from, then it's a whole nother mindset that you'll have, because it's not us that he's coming against. If it was you, he probably wouldn't even care. He'd probably leave you alone because you're not even a threat. But he's coming against God. He's trying to take a soldier in God's army and take him out, because if he can do that, he'll be successful. David realized this. And so that was one of the reasons why. And he was whole. That's the other reason why David was successful. He had his thumbs and his big toes. So like I said, he came at him and he was like, I'm a son of God and he's got my back. That's being offensive. He was able to do that. He didn't even have to be defensive, because he knew he could be offensive. So I think that's why, and I will start my 72-point close now. I'm just kidding. But the Bible gives 2 animal references of Jesus. One of them is a lamb, and the other is a lion. And Moses, lamb. I think Moses was very lamb-like. Joshua, lion. But it took both of them for God's promise to be fulfilled. So in other words, you need to be a lion and a lamb. Jesus was both. So we need to be able to be both in order to get what God has for us. You can be Judah in praise and worship and be lamb-like, but eventually you're going to have to be a lion and start taking. Remember Jericho? Jericho, I love that story because they marched around 7 times. They walk around Jericho 7 times, and then they Judah'd. And they praised and they screamed and the walls fell down. And first of all, that's all we go to. They had to walk around 7 times. Sometimes you got to walk around some stuff before you get what God has for you. So there's that. But then the other part was the walls fell down. They still had to go inside and take it. They didn't just the walls didn't fall down, there was mansions for everyone. No, they had to go in and fight. They had to Simeon to get in there. God said, go in and take everything after the walls come down. They did what they were supposed to. They were obedient, listened, walked around, and then when the walls came down, they had to go in and fight. So we're real good at the whole Judah part, but the Simeon part, so Jesus was both. The lamb went to the cross. He did that. He sacrificed himself. The lion walked around and demons begged to be thrown into pigs and jump off cliffs because they didn't even want to mess with him because his mane was so luxurious that he was just, back up, demons. The lion walked around and people said, hey, man, I'm sick. I got issues, I'm a prostitute, I'm all these things, but you can defeat what I got. And so they came to him because they saw something different about him. That was the lion. The lamb was the one who went and ate with the tax collectors and the prostitutes and the people that everyone else thought was insignificant, like a lamb. He went and ate with them, but the lion was the one who was like, hey, what you got, you don't got to worry about that. I got you. So it's kind of funny because Goliath strutted his stuff for 40 days and 40 nights. The lion was tempted for 40 days and 40 nights. But he had both. He had the lion and the lamb. He had his thumbs and his big toes. So when the enemy for 40 days and 40 nights was coming after him, he was like, nah, man should not live off bread alone. Flee. And he Sparta kicked Satan off. You're talking about 300. Sparta kicked him off the edge because he was whole and he had both. We're called to be Christ-like. Ain't no one ever going to be Jesus. We talked about this at pre-service prayer. I feel like sometimes we think we will never be defeated. He's the only one who was ever undefeated and will ever be undefeated. So don't expect to not lose, but when you do lose, get back up. They did beat AI after they lost to AI, so we can get back up and take what's rightfully ours. We don't just have to stay there. But Goliath walked around, Jesus walked around. I think that's very symbolic, and I think it is very true. A lot of times, we're trying to be a multi-generational church. And like I said, a lot of times you might hear someone say a list of things up here. None of those really apply to you, so you mentally kind of check out and feel a sense of ease, but there is something. You might see a dude who looks like he's still in junior high about to go to Whaling Days up here talking to you, but if you decide to check out and not listen, that's on you because God will use every single person in here to speak to us. It doesn't really matter who it is, how old they are, and even if you are an old dog, you can learn new tricks, but it's up to you to learn them. No one's gonna force you guys to learn stuff, and I'm not saying this so you guys listen to me or think that I'm smart or not, because I'm not. I studied this and I learned this for this message. I'm going to keep on learning until I die, and I get that, and I don't hopefully ever want to lose that mentality. I talked to someone the other day, and they said, I was like, I don't think you could learn from me because you feel like you know more. And the person was like, that's not true. You teach me technology all the time. They were of the older variety. So they were like, you help me with technology all the time. And I was like, yeah, but that's something they don't know. We're really receptive when we want to get better and there's something we don't know and someone else knows it. But what if it's something we think we do know? and someone else is talking to you about it, then how receptive are you then when someone comes to you in an area like, I'm an expert in basketball, you gonna try to tell me how to drive to the hoop? Man, forget you. Like, I don't need your help. Like, I already know how to be a supervisor. I've been supervising for 25 years, thank you very much, and we are successful, but no one on your crew likes you. Like, maybe you should change something. Like, sorry, that's just shipyard talk coming out. But there's things that happen. Like I said, pride is a sneaky Goliath because you don't realize you have it. Pride is like a booger in your nose that no one tells you about. Everyone else sees it and they look at you and you're like, But they don't say anything until the Bible's spoken as a mirror. It's supposed to show us ourselves, and you look at the Bible, the Word of God, and then you see, dang, I got snot all over my face. And God's like, it's all cool, here's a tissue, wipe it up, and let's move forward. So that one's tough, and I just like I said, we're trying to become a multi-generational church. That's like a big part of this. This message was for me in my own life and my own struggles, but it applies to all of this stuff. And I think that's a very relevant one for right now. Just humility. David knew who was fighting. This is not a flesh and blood thing. You might not like me, but if I say something that's relevant, God is speaking to you. So don't let the enemy come and cut off your big toes and your thumbs because you don't like someone, or because, that person at work is a butt face. Yeah, they are, but we're supposed to love them anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and be done. Can you guys stand up? I don't know where you're at, how you're doing. Maybe you have 2 thumbs and 2 big toes extra, like on each foot and hand, and you're just living life amazingly. But if you're like me and you get amputated sometimes, can we all just close our eyes and bow our heads? If that is you and you are struggling and you want to be whole again and you feel like you haven't been fighting to the capacity that you could, or you're just getting beat up, you're letting Goliath come and beat you down, wear you down, can you just, we all have our eyes closed, just lift your hand up. My eyes are closed too. I ain't trying to look and get no secret looks. But this is just a confession to God saying that I need help, because you have to ask for help in order to receive it. You can't get it without asking. So put in your hand up right now. We're just going to say this is a prophetic statement saying, God, I need my thumbs and my big toes back. I need that fighting lion spirit back. I'm really good at being a lamb. I'm really good at being a lion, but I need both. So God, we're just asking right now, everyone that did raise their hand, can you just touch them right now, God? Can you give them a little bit of your lion and a little bit of your lamb, God? Can you fill them up with that passion and that desire and that confidence in who's actually fighting for our lives? We thank you that you died and you paid a high price, so we have access to that, and we don't have to just walk around amputees forever, but we can be made whole at an instant. You beat death, so rejuvenating a thumb and a big toe is nothing to you. So we just thank you that you are doing it right now to every single person that is asking, whether it's in their heart, hand up, or down. Everyone that needs it, God, we just thank you right now that you are touching them, you are restoring them, and you are building an army of warriors that's going to be successful against darkness in this county, in this season, in this time. In Jesus' name, amen.